Hey everybody, welcome to the Crossed Over Celebrity channel. My name is Tina. I'm a soul alignment coach and I help people expand their definition of who they are by teaching them about the soul contract. So what I do on this channel is I team up with a famous celebrity who has crossed over to the other side, and we talk about some of their issues, what they kind of want to talk about. And today it's F for family, as you can see by the heading. And I have the wonderful, beautiful Louie Anderson, who actually crossed over not too long ago. So I was surprised that he was okay with me doing this, and am very grateful for that. So again, I said I team up with a celebrity. We will walk through their soul contract. I will bring through messages from them, and we will share and see how things unfold. I'll post some oracle cards as well later in the video. And then we usually end with like a healing mantra. So, you know, the messages are for people who will be attracted to the video. And so if you liked Louie and you are interested in learning more about him and what messages he has for you, then you are at the right place at the right time. So I am going to, as always, let's talk a little bit about who Louie Anderson was here when he was in this incarnation that we are talking about. So he was a stand-up comedian. He was extremely popular. Very much, he was, you know, heavy set, but and known for his self-deprecating comedic style. So funny though, very original, and just this very kind and loving energy. And really, his jokes were very much about himself and life, and he, you know, he was not kind of the offensive kind of comedian. He really was just wonderful to watch. So he was he had lymphoma and had that for quite a while. So he ended up dying from that. And so we were going to talk a little bit about that, because this ties back to things that happened to him as a child and his family. And healing. He did a lot of healing throughout his life. He was able to work through a lot of his grief and he was a very sensitive person. We'll talk about that as well. A lot of celebrities and people with all of these gifts are usually older souls. I talk about that, and they're very sensitive beings as well. So again, he won many awards. He had a comedy, like a cartoon comedy, Life with Louie. He was born in St. Paul, Minnesota. I live close to there. I grew up in Michigan, but again, I was from a large family. Louie was from a very large family. We have some similarities in, you know, his father was an alcoholic, and there was a lot of abuse and chaos growing up in that household. He had 11 brothers and sisters. And so from an extremely large family, very poverty consciousness, very, very poor, very similar to my own background. So raised very poor, and a very tough childhood. So we will get into that when we look at his chart. But I also, you know, but he accomplished a lot in his life. And so he, like I said, he did many movies, lots of stand-up routines that people know about. He won an Emmy for this role he played channeling his mother in baskets. That was kind of a real cathartic healing experience for him, because he was extremely close to his mother. She died in 1990, so he really had missed her. She really was his foundation. You know, in our lives, there's usually one person we really connect to, and that was, for him, she was that person. He was very empathic, very much a humanitarian, really big heart, had a very serious side to him when it came to politics and trying to bring more consciousness to the world. And I found a interview that he did on Bob Saget's channel, and Bob also passed away in January. Louie just a few weeks ago, Bob earlier in January. I didn't do anything with him because there was so much trauma around his passing. It was so shocking and not what anyone expected. So with Louie, this transition was not hard for him. And he was very conscious and struggled with health issues. So it wasn't quite as a shock. And he is so, like I said, his energy came through. He's very loving, mothering kind of energy, very woke. And so anyways, I was talking about this. So I think it was in May 2021. You can look it up on Bob Saget's YouTube channel. And he did an interview with Bob and really tells a lot about who he was as a person, and just this loving, huge heart of a man. And so I'm really honored that he's here today to bring through some messages for us. So is there anything else that I wanted to bring up? That interview was really, like I said, enlightening, and really talked about being woke and consciousness. So, this was a leader. He was just a wonderful person to be around, great energy, obviously had his own struggles, and we'll talk about that when we get to a soul chart. So I will bring up his soul chart now. So let me share the screen. And there he is. I like this picture of him. He's so much represents, the guy next door. Somebody you could see out, shoveling his driveway, or like I said, we grew up with similar areas, similar backgrounds. And so I really resonate with Louie, and we have a lot of very similar numbers in our charts. So that's why I also, when we have similar numbers in our charts, we're on very similar frequencies, depending on where you're at in your chart. Because again, when I talk about these soul contracts, and I always put my short introductory video in the description box below if you're interested in learning more about the background and how I put the charts together and what comes of that. So lots of interesting things going on in Louie's chart. And I like to point that kind of stuff out into how these numbers, which constitute vibrations and emanate out to our reality, the kinds of experiences that we wanted to experience in this lifetime. So for, I always say there's a physical side to our charts because we're physical beings, or we're spiritual beings in a physical body, having this experience. And so we start out kind of with our physical numbers emanating out, and then we work into our spiritual numbers. And so it varies by person to person at how many lifetimes, kind of what you're bringing through. Most of the celebrities tend to be a little bit, I find, older souls for the most part, with their types of accomplishments and what they're able to handle in their lifetimes. So this is, again, people incarnating, and learning their lessons. And so it's kind of this ascension process that we're all going through. And so for him, he was this big-hearted guy, very, very loving. Again, had this so he has this 21-3 and his, I'm going to highlight my mouse here. This 21-3 that Louie has in his karma. Now this tells me this can manifest as having a very tough childhood, and that was very much the case with his alcoholic father, who was very abusive, and his mother tried to shield the children, from from the father, and Louie recognized her, that in her, and really, bonded them two through those experiences. And so the 21-3 in karma, so your karma is your opportunities for growth. So you'll get a lot of the negative aspects, although that can come from all of the numbers, have positive and negative. So depending on where you're at, you could be pulling in negative and positive, and it really depends on our thought processes, what's going on with us, and how, because our thoughts are what create our emotions, and the emotions are what create our reality. So again, we can get into these cycles of negativity, and without coming into mindfulness and understanding that you are not your thoughts, that sometimes you're reliving things from the past that are recreating certain patterns in your life. So mindfulness is something that I talk about in my videos, getting into alignment. My business is called The Alignment Keys. I always put my information in the description box if you're interested in learning more about me and the services that I provide. But for Louie, I'm very familiar with this number because, again, it can mean a tough childhood. It can mean being that it's in the physical. This can lead to, because of the emotional suppression by his father, this can lead to being overweight, because the overweightness comes from a few things going on here, but it's a little bit of an armoring, and we call it stuffing, where you eat because it's giving you this sense of comfort, and because you're not able to deal with your emotions. So whenever you feel emotions coming up, or the anxiety, or because he was very sensitive and empathic, you can feel like when his dad would be in a bad mood, or he would be able to sense that right away. And so then for him, a coping mechanism was eating, which would give him comfort, because he knew he very much has these fives in his spiritual talents. And fives are all about speaking your truth, and you can be very impulsive with what you say. And he talked about that a lot in his comedic routines about he would have these comebacks that he almost couldn't resist saying, and then his dad was like, "Don't be a smart aleck or a smart ass," and but really put him down. And again, it was the suppression of his, because for him it was very important to express his truth, and his being so sensitive. He was a very nurturing type person, which is in our culture and the time that he grew up with, our patriarchal culture, where men are supposed to be this, I call it the toxic masculinity, and very put women down, and we're in control, and be this very domineering, abusive, all controlling type person. And men were expected to not show their emotions and not show their feelings, that was a weakness. And we're starting to learn, as consciousness is expanding and growing, that understanding how you feel and the tie to the thoughts is actually really important for your manifestation process. So again, suppressing those emotions really cripples you at a soul level and causes all kinds of problems, because again, it knocks you out of alignment with your soul and who you are at a soul level. And this was no different for Louie. But again, we choose these experiences so that we can overcome them, so that we can see from that. You can't gain true compassion. You can't gain true inner peace and true joy without understanding the suffering that is attached to it, because it's one and the same in our 3D world. You have to understand all of the whole, how it's all tied together in order to be able to transmute these negative emotions. And so again, the 21-3, the people with 21-3, it's a very heavy energy, and it's about endurance. So people can get chronic fatigue syndrome and have a lot of physical issues because of this heavy energy when we see this in karma. And it's about learning how to endure hardship and how to overcome hardship. And that was no different from him. And for him, it was also about learning how to communicate his feelings and express them, even though somebody was trying to suppress them, because the 3 is all about communication and learning how to communicate in that environment. And so he had these wonderful, great talents. So we see he's got this 10-1. It's a very powerful number because 9s and 1s are the most powerful, 1s are the second most powerful. So it's awesome that he has this 10-1 in his talents because it gives him a way to balance out a lot of this going on. And he was able to do it through his communication, right? His speech, his comedic ability to break the tension, to break the abuse. But whenever you see a 10-1 in a chart, and when it's about the numbers that are around it as well, just like as if you're reading tarot cards, the numbers take on different meanings depending on how the numbers around it flow, because they're pushing on each other. And so it tells a bigger story when you get them all together. And so when you see this 10-1, even though it was in talents, because of this great suppression by his father, the 10-1 is disempowerment from the masculine. And you can see this in a lot of people. And of course, in our culture, that's very common, especially for women, to see a lot of disempowerment from the masculine, because that's that patriarchal perspective of trying to keep, the feminine down. Now, this 10-1 is about balancing the feminine and masculine inside of us. So Louie did a fabulous job with this. You could see that when we see actors and celebrities with this number, a lot of times you can really see their feminine side in them, that femininity. And with Louie, it was no different. You could see it. He did this wonderful job of playing in this show Baskets, a mother figure. So he played a woman. This was truly, he said he was channeling his mother, and I have absolutely no doubt by looking at his chart, 9s are all about channeling. I have no doubt that he was channeling her and taking on her persona and able to bring through her personality and her mannerisms and all of these things. So he did the super job of doing that. But again, the 10-1, lots of this was that disempowerment, the abuse of power from his father. And this really led to a lot of his, and he talks very openly about these things, which is such a gift to us because he's somebody who laid it all out there, his vulnerability, his issues with his addiction to food. And it was very compulsive. And he talks about how compulsive and 10-1s do have a subconscious compulsion to do certain things. And it's really hard. You have to do a lot of healing to unpeel those layers to get back to when that actually started happening. So you can dismantle it and you can heal from it, because it's really important for us to heal. And whenever I start really hitting on a very touchy subject with them, I'll start to itch my nose a little bit. So that's usually a validation for me that Louie is in agreement with where I'm going with this, because he did put it out all on the table for us to learn from his experience and be able to laugh at it as well, which really, laughing is so healing in itself. Being a comedian was very healing for him because that was giving him this expression, which is also this 22-4 in his physical goals. So I look a lot to this 5 because it's all about speaking your truth. And this would be very important to Louie. But the 22-4 is tied to your actual voice sound, your oral expression. And that was a goal of his, was for him to do this, to express himself at a very deep level. And so I give him lots of credit for putting his vulnerability out there. This, you know, the 21-3 and the 22 are all about this great humanitarian energy. And he was extremely giving. Again, I said he had a very serious side to him. So he would talk very much about how it's really important that we do our inner work and that we start to become conscious of our behavior and how we make others feel, because he understands as an empath how detrimental any type of abuse on somebody who is as sensitive as him carries throughout your life. And it's very hard to break those cycles. Now, he was, I said there were 11 children in his family. He was number 10 of 11. He also crossed over on January 21st, you know, the 1 and the 21 and the 22 of 2022. And this all really ties in with the soul chart very beautifully and tells me that he was really working through his chart. So he ended up, like I said, he had the lymphoma, and there's an emotional component. Anytime we manifest something physically through this hardship and endurance number, it has an emotional connotation. It can have an emotional connotation. And for Louie, if you look at the book Messages from the Body by Michael J. Lincoln, PhD, he talks about lymphoma, which is caused by a deep-seated resentment and resignation caused by his father's abuse. The shame-inducing projections left him being forced to suffer in silence and to stuff his feelings. This led him to be disabled in his ability to self-nurture himself. And that's where the crippling effect of others' abuse can have on us if we are in a very toxic relationship like this for many years. The one thing Louie talked about is he felt gratitude that his parents stayed together because he felt he was better off in the relationship with his father than if he would have been removed. I can't 100% say that I agree with him on that, because we can become almost, when you're very empathic, like Louie was, when you have these 8s, which is a very, very sensitive sign, and you have 5s, which are very sensitive, and you have a 3 in your chart, which is this kind of low self-esteem number, and 4s as well can be tied to a lower self-worth. You can become very overgiving and over forgiving. You know, it's not okay for somebody to continually abuse others. So it's not okay, and it is important for people to really understand how that chips away at your self-esteem, those relationships, and how it keeps knocking you down as you continue to try to build your self-worth. And it doesn't mean that we have to leave everybody in our lives or go up into the mountains and get away from it all. It's really about us learning how to set healthy boundaries, how to limit our contact, and to allow others getting their kind of narcissistic energy supplied through us by draining us of our energy and our overgiving. And so it's really important for people to understand where, especially with empaths like Louie, where their energy ends and others begin, because they can become very enmeshed in others' energies and wanting to fix them. See, that's, you know, he talks a lot about his mom. His dad ended up finally quitting drinking when he was like 69, and his mom was very much like, oh, I always knew he would quit. And again, has this very overly optimistic, oh, if we stick it out long enough, we can help fix somebody else, when it is their job to do their inner work, and it is not us to suffer. And when I see somebody have 8s in their chart, and they're, you know, and they're in relationships that are very abusive, this can be hard to let go because you tend to get over involved because you want to help fix them. It all comes from this very good place, but it's very destructive to an empath's soul. And again, you know, when I talked about, you know, that his father was very projecting of shame and about Louie's weight and other things, you know, really putting his family down and treating people very negatively. And it has an impact on a very sensitive person as Louie. He needed, when I see someone with fives, I talk about this, they need a lot of space clearing. He really needed to be eating well and watching what kind of toxins he would be injecting because he was so sensitive. And because, you know, they need to be eating more organically and more clean. So again, that when I see those numbers, those are just some things that people can do. Now, when I see nines, and I talked about the fact that he was channeling his mother, and this is his spiritual side, which he worked into. And the fours are really about trusting in the flow of spirit and that things will be there for you. Because when you grow up in this tough childhood, you tend to be very self-isolating. And you have to be careful of that because, you know, you don't trust people when you can't even trust your own father to treat you with love and kindness. You know, that messes with our ability to trust. And then, but he had these great talents. Fives can be, if you don't recognize them as talents, because it's a very spiritual talent, but it is in the spiritual aspect. This makes him very psychic. And like I said, he would know just by looking at his dad or even driving up the driveway, like what kind of mood his dad would be. And that's how sensitive and psychic these empaths get. And so when we see this nines in spiritual goals, it's really tied to him learning how to take his power back with integrity. And I think he did that very well in his life because, okay, so we talk about how do you take your power back with integrity when you're being abused by somebody repeatedly. Because I think he talked about he gave his mother like a Mother's Day gift, and he made up some coupons for her. And one of the coupons was, "I'll kill dad for you." And so he did it through humor. But again, if he was going to take his power back, he could have said, "I'm going to get rid of my abuser and kill him," actually kill him and do that, destruct somebody else. And that is not integrity. It's learning that you have the power to walk away. You have the power to make your life how you want it to be. And so that's what I mean by when it says to take your power back with integrity. It doesn't mean that gives you the right because someone is abusing you to abuse them back. Now, in our culture, we do this whole play this game, an eye for an eye and all of this nonsense. And all that does is it just keeps the pattern perpetuating. And you can see it in the Middle East. That's been that cycle of retaliation, and eye for an eye keeps that warring in a cycle. And so when you take your power back with integrity, you have to stand in truth. And that's something that Louie did extremely well. And you have to do it with love, because love is the only thing that can break any type of a hate or a vicious cycle pattern. And I give Louie credit for breaking a cycle of abuse in his family by being such a giving, loving, conscious being on this planet and sharing that side of him with us. And that also the fives, I wanted to point out, gave him this great ability to write, and we call it creative writing, but to channel it and put it down on paper. Fives make brilliant writers. He did end up writing some I haven't read his books for me because I have a very similar childhood, and I struggle a little bit reading about others who have gone through similar experiences, because that triggers some of my own trauma that I am still working through in my life. And so, but he did write this book, and I do plan on reading his as well. So, and I encourage you to, if you were also raised, had a tough childhood and were raised in a similar way, these large families, and so lack of support and emotional support. And you know, he gave his dad a lot of credit for getting his work ethic from him. There was a lot of poverty consciousness. His dad worked 2 jobs. I mean, to support 11 children. He was a musician, very good musician, but couldn't make enough money to support that many children. So he worked 2 jobs. So again, he was able to see, he was able to go deep enough to see maybe where his dad was struggling. And again, it's about us, because we're all connected, about us going inside and working on ourselves, because we're all tied. Like your parents are inside of you, you're part of your DNA. So, and you pick your parents. I know that people don't want to hear that, but you incarnate, you pick your parents. That it's not a random thing like you think it is. Like you were, you know, you don't get away with this victim mode that you randomly got these terrible parents. You knew what you were getting into and what possibly could go wrong, because you chose this in your chart to experience. And so again, with the 5s, he had a little bit of these, it gave him a great courage and able to step out into kind of this pioneer too, because he was a very unique comedian. He really was very special in that way. And this is tied into with the 4s, because we're trying to come to the positive side of these 4s. And again, the negative side can be very self-isolation. You can be a little bit self-centered, because you had so little that you just want to hang on to what little you have. So you don't want to share with people, because you just want to hang on to what little you have, because you don't trust that more will be there, because you've not seen it. You know, it takes a while for us to start working into the positive and start trusting into the flow. Excuse me, creating that mindfulness, getting out of these negative patterns, that what happened yesterday doesn't mean what will happen tomorrow. And learning that we have some control over that. So 4s they come into this great, beautiful sun energy. He just exuded this beautiful radiating energy. And that comes from that he did come into the flow, kind of this grace and understanding there was more going on than meets the eye. So you could definitely see that in his, you know, just how he exuded himself and his energy. And so again, this 22-4 in his physical goals really was about him learning to, you know, use his vocal expression in a positive way. You know, this was to become that humanitarian benefactor, really looking at a lot of different belief systems, opening up the conscious mind. It's really coming at your life from this complete, you see this little circle, the triangles about completion, from a complete perspective. And I think he did that brilliantly in his comedic style, and just how he could really, you know, really touch us. And that was from his overall soul destiny, which is the culmination of all of your numbers. And this was about him being able to emotionally connect with everyone. And so on a very, you know, so this is taking these spiritual talents. When you have this 8 in soul destiny, it's taking your spiritual talents and then putting them out there and expressing them to the world, and to emotionally connect with people. And this was about through his writing, through his speech, using his oral speech. Is when I say it's tied to speech, you know, it can be writing or speaking, like writing a great speech, or John F. Kennedy had this. And but the 22-4 would be how he would express it and how he would use his voice. So again, he had kind of this unique voice. I see a lot of times with people with a 22-4 in their charts, and they had this extremely distinctive voice that if you hear just a couple words out of their mouth, you would know who it was just by their voice, because it's so unique to them. And I love that about the 22-4. It also gives them a great ability to be entrepreneurs and in business, which he obviously was very successful in that aspect. And, you know, the main trouble that he was really struggling with was the deep, deep abuse of his father that led to a lot of the compulsive eating, and him not being able to get to that nurturing himself. And so I do want to also mention that 22-4 is tied to how it's tied to your inner beauty. And it's a lot of self-judgment. And it's really, when you have it in goals, it's about you came here to learn to see that you are beautiful just the way you are. And I know he struggled with that. He struggled, he was married twice. One only lasted 4 weeks, one lasted 4 months. So this 22-4, again, when I talk about the 4 in isolation energy is, and this is a self-worth thing, and it is really being able to trust in another person and be able to share yourself in a committed relationship. And so eights do struggle too with a little bit of commitment issues. And so Louie, that was just something that was, you know, that he was working on because of his self-judgment and really needing, you know, which he came here to learn that he was beautiful. You know, it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. You're beautiful the way you are. You're perfect in God's eyes. You are a perfect being. So it's others, you know, judgments and all of that judgment from his father and others. There were others because he, again, you know, fives can manifest abuse. This 21-3 is about tough childhood, enduring hardship, and then the abuse from the masculine. And so he did also run into an incident where somebody was trying to blackmail him, a man, by saying that he propositioned him. And initially Louie paid him, which he shouldn't have, because that would go against him speaking the truth and just, you know, letting the cards fall. But he was worried about his image and how people were going to accept that, you know, that from him. But he did end up having to go to the authorities, which is the right thing to do, and say he was being extorted for money. And so the gentleman did get 21, I don't know if it was, I think it was 21 months in jail or something, but it was a 21, which correlated to, but that was about him taking back his power with integrity and just saying, you know what, I can't worry about what other people think. This is wrong, what this person is doing to me, and I need to step up and do what's right, regardless of the consequences. And it didn't hurt him in any way that all that happened. So those fears that we sometimes generate are, you know, they're illusions, and they can be illusions created by the chart to help, to give you the experience, to help you work through it. None of these charts are easy that we choose. Nobody has sails through. People though, like some of the, you know, the Buddhists, the really mindful, the very old souls that are really ready to ascend to that avatar level. People like Eckhart Tolle and the Dalai Lama, and I've been watching a lot of Thich Nhat Hanh, who had recently crossed over as well, and people who understood that joy comes from in doing the inner work and getting working on your mindfulness and understanding why you're doing the things you're doing. And obviously the one thing that Louie was struggling with was obviously this compulsion to overeat and not doing the self-care, because he still hadn't was still, because of the AIDS, having a difficult time of letting go of that resistance and bitterness that really was so deep seated from all of that abuse from his dad. So, but love Louie. I really am so grateful that he came and is allowing me to talk about all of this wonderful chart. And he did such a good job with all these numbers and with what he took on in his life. And so I'm really proud of him for that. So, and was such a joyous reunion with his mom. He wants to let everybody know that this was really a soul family, and he's again just was so overjoyed to reconnect on the other side with those that have been looking out for him. And the number one fan of his mom was there. So that was, that makes me so emotional to hear, because she was such a protector of him, and he really, really appreciated that she took the brunt of the abuse. So she could never see, and that's kind of one of those cyclical patterns I talk about, or karmic patterns in families, is that learning, for her, she never was able to really take her power back. And he broke a little, he broke a little more of that pattern, and broke a little bit more, taking more power back in his writing and being able to talk about his experience and speak his truth and help others. And that's when you're becoming this real healer energy. And it's my belief that we all play a lot of roles in our incarnations, and we start off kind of this perpetrator, victim. We start out as perpetrators, and then we kind of play victim, and then that can kind of go back and forth. And then as we start to evolve, we start to come into being the healers and the teachers, to help, bring consciousness to that other dynamic. So you have to live many incarnations, and you start working on your levels of compassion and being able to understand things from a lot of different perspectives. And so we are going to start picking some cards, and I just want to see if there's anything on my list that I missed. And where would you like to go first? Oh, he wants to go right away to the Archangel Metatron Self-Mastery deck. Yeah, so for him, he brings up beautiful card. Again, we were just talking about your path, the keys to being able to unlock these issues and boundaries. Set them daily, because it's really easy to get pulled off your path. Again, I talk a lot about being in alignment with your soul, and there's a lot of noise out there, and a lot of energies trying to knock you out when you're working hard on sticking on your path. So one of the ways, a really great way, is to set those intentions daily. Call in Archangel Michael to clear your energy and to protect you. Mindful meditations, there's a lot of things you can do. You can do walking meditations, mindfulness, practicing mindfulness daily, whether it's through meditation, unified chakra meditations, zazen meditations, yoga is a mindful practice. All of these are great solutions. So very, very important to set them daily. It's a great, and of course he's got the 14 here, which 1 and 4 adds up to 5, which was in his spiritual talents. And so we're going next to the Work Your Light Oracle. And this is, we're talking to a light worker here, somebody who brought a lot of light with him. And so he wants you to ask yourself, Starseed, as we all are a lot of us resonate as being starseeds. What lights you up? So what brings you joy? Really coming back to those, you know, here's all sitting on the rocks, watching all of that tumultuous water, the ocean signifying your emotions, but yeah, all of the Saturn there, and beautiful. Let's look and see what we got going on here for the star seeds. So this is about inquiry, and believe it or not, this is on page 50, which is the other 5. Star seeds are souls with double missions: to raise their own consciousness and the consciousness of the planet. So Louie was definitely a star seed. They are old souls who have incarnated elsewhere beyond this planet. Oh, that's very interesting. Many star seeds arrive with a feeling that time is running out and that there is something that they came here to do or create or to contribute. If you pulled this card, it is to confirm that you are a star seed and you are being encouraged to answer the call, to follow what lights you up. Once awake, most starseed souls find it hard to have meaningless conversations, jobs, and relationships. They innately know, the innate, which is your inside here, know that there is much more to life and feel that there's something more and you need to get to work. They remain restless until they step into their calling, which is to light up the world with their unique presence. Starseeds are scattered all over the planet in hospitals and schools and slums and mansions, on stages and in edit suites, in parks and nightclubs, in taxis and theme parks. Many starseeds spend parts of their lives trying to fit in or in some form of spiritual closet. If you are dimming your light to fit in, it is time that you stop and start embracing the unique light that you came here to share and treat your time on earth like a glorious vacation. Thank you, Louie. That was incredible. That really struck home, and I hope for a lot of our viewers as well. So many of us tend to dim our light in, and I know when you have 5s in your chart, you can be somewhat of a people pleaser. And because you want everyone to be happy, you're so sensitive to what others are feeling that you just try your hardest to make everyone happy, but you got to have that self-nurturance and self-love. Okay, so he wanted me to go to the Keepers of the Light deck next, which is by Kyle Gray, and it is about the angels. And this is faith, and this is a beautiful mothering energy, isn't it? This really reminds me of Louie. Humanity and benevolence. Stay calm, trust the good in yourself and others, see light in the world. It's really important for us. We want, I used to have this, put that little saying below my name on my work email about, you'll see it when you believe it. You know, most people will be like, well, I'll believe it when I see it, but it's really, you have to believe it in order to create it. And faith. He did have a lot of faith, even through his, lack of trust. He really, and I did want to mention, I thought that was very interesting that Rodney Dangerfield became more like a father figure to him, and he really admired him and loved him dearly, and as to how well Rodney treated him. And so he was gifted again with somebody in his life that could kind of be that father that he always wanted. And so he wanted to make sure that I said something about Rodney Dangerfield. And so here is number 24. And this is Electric Eel Spirit. Bring your ideas to life. And a 2 and a 4 add up to 6, which is really all about that love and harmony. But again, he has a 2 in the 22-4 and 4 is in his chart. And so this is I love this energy about bringing your ideas to life like he did. He had so many creative ideas. It was just amazing, you know, how that worked and flowed for him. So I like that electric eel. You know, actually he wants me to, something else in here I'm supposed to say about that. Okay. Seemingly out of nowhere, the jolt of the electric eel spirit appears to awaken you to a big idea that you are meant to explore. Epiphanies and aha moments are gifted to you right now, so celebrate. Your life has a potential for profound transformation. Inspiration arises in you, electrifying you so that you can't wait to get started to bring your idea to life. The revelations you experience now are meant to set you on a new path. So do not be afraid to act. Explore, examine, and do not fear the changes that may come. For Spirit wants to shower you with love, success, and abundance. Now is a thrilling time of epiphanies, inspired ideas, and innovation. This is a wondrous sign for you today. So, that's good for our viewers to understand that, to watch those signs coming through now. It's a great time. We just came out of Mercury retrograde as well. Although these videos are timeless, people will get, there'll be something in them. I just looked at the clock and it's 6:22. This is great, 22, right? That benevolent humanitarian that he was, the philosopher, so soul tree is coming up, and that is number 21. That was in his karma. And again, we talked about that soul family. And when you're doing your inner work, you're not just doing it for you, you're doing it for you. We're all connected, but the most important thing is that your immediate ancestral line is connected to you. So the more inner work that you can do, the more it actually affects those around you and your soul family, and then the extended family, which is the rest of the world. So beautiful card with the earth and the tree growing out, ascending up with the wings. That is spectacular. And let's see what this is all about. So this is the secret language of light. And it gives you a lot of, I always put where I pull the cards from, and this is really about soul transmission. So the soul tree is, trees are filled with wisdom. You are becoming more connected to nature. Trees are great holders of wisdom and knowledge. Next time you are near a tree, try asking it what it would like you to know and listen with an open heart for an inspired response. The same life force that animates you also flows through the trees. We are all in this together. Now imagine that trees are physical manifestations of angels. I always do that. I talk to them now. Their divine essence flows deep into trees as angels are far-reaching in their ability to help, care, and create. Trees, like angels, see and feel without judgment, always emitting an eternal stream of love. Allow angelic tree energy to flow through you, sending roots deep into the ground, forming a solid foundation that enables you to reach higher and deeper into the light and to your soul. From this vantage point, you can sculpt your ideas and dreams to be planted upon the earth for you to enjoy through your physical senses. So this is where you can bring down that joy and bring it through the emotional body and feel it. And Louie felt everything. He absorbed all of us. He was one of the greatest transmitters of negativity on this planet, and we got to replace that energy. I mean, he's up there helping us, and he's, you can ask the angels, you can ask Louie. They're all ready to help, but you have to ask first. But we have to keep, we have to replace all of these wonderful light beings that are transitioning all the time. So we have to keep doing our inner work and anchoring our light. So let's pull a few more cards, Louie. That's too many. Okay, here we go. Okay, number 38. To be fair, and he had a 3 and an 8 in his chart. 3 in karma, 8 in his soul destiny, and it adds up to 11, which is about new beginnings. But let's see what to be fair. So this is about balance, justice, a need to consider options, mutual benefit, and the law of cause and effect. Life offers experiences that are challenging and experiences that are nourishing, yet over time they strike a balance. You move from being, from stasis, to doing, from discovering, to loving, to letting go, to being again. Okay, so this talks about like the 3. His 8s are about learning to let go. The 3 is about learning to move from that doing to discovering, because 3 is Mars energy, so it's about doing. Life is a pendulum, swinging all of these states. You will always oscillate back and forth between doing and being. If you are not content with where you are at this moment, remember that all experiences have their place. Accept them without judgment, and you will see how the universe adjusts in perfect balance. You reap what you sow. For every cause, there is an effect. Wondrous things will be revealed now. Ooh, I like that. We're always open to that, aren't we? What else? Oh, here's an actual, we're going to do an actual message from the James Bond Prague. The right way. Talking to Heaven. He has these great mediumship cards. And this is what I thought he had said before. I am with the rest of the family. So he really, like I said, you can see him there with his mom and even his dad all together again. That's a message straight from him. I love that. I just want to cry and feel that love that he has. So we are going to do the Sacred Destiny here. A few more, and then we'll do the mantra. Oh, and so we've got potential coming out. This is a beautiful mountain, and I don't know if that's the moon behind there, kind of hidden yet, not quite fully illuminating out. Let's quickly look at. Oh, that was a volcano. Volcanoes erupt in places where the Earth's plate meet and where there are cracks through which lava emerges, either explosively or by flowing more slowly down a cinder cone. Even when a volcano is at rest, there is always the possibility of a huge eruption. There is the potential of great power. There are very few things on this planet more commanding than an erupting volcano. The archetypal personality of a volcano is one of wild, unpredictable, and formidable energy. And so this was on page 64, which was 10, part of his talents. Okay, so this card appears when you activate your potential and step into your strength. 10 was his talents and his strength. This is the time to activate those gifts that you had on the back burner in your life. You have incredible untapped potential. This is the time to allow it to flow. An inner wellspring of power is emerging. You have profound spiritual power that is deep within you. Do not doubt your great authority and capabilities. A dormant volcano might indicate that you have uncomfortable emotions that you are repressing or keeping inside, thus creating emotional stress and inner pressure. He can really relate to that. It can also mean that you are on the verge of a great expansion of energy and life force. So again, it's paying attention to what's going on in here and how you are feeling and tying, all of those emotions together. I'm going to pull one of the archetype cards, which kind of tells us about our light and dark side, because we all have positive and we all have shadow side. And so it's really important for us to get in touch with that and to honor both the light and the dark. So what is coming through is the shape shifter. And so the light attributes of the shapeshifter are skill at navigating through different levels of consciousness, able to see the potential in everything. The shadow side of being a shapeshifter is projecting any image that serves your personal agenda in the moment. So again, it's about that self-serving mentality, about getting something, you know, trying to get something out of everything that you do, instead of using those skills to see, you know, your navigating and going through consciousness. And I like all that different levels, because Louie was extremely complex, like we all are. So that was a really interesting card to get. And so, oh, okay, we're going to do one more, the activations. He wants to do an activation card, and then we're going to do the healing mantra. So magic comes up, 31, which adds up to 4. And we all need to believe in magic. I mean, he thinks he had the most wonderful life, right? Just being able to do what you love, make people laugh. I mean, how incredible. The frequency of magic supports our intrinsic ability to grow and expand beyond this moment, to move toward possibilities and expressing that, and expressions that are as grand and profound as we can imagine. All that is required is our belief in their manifestation. We're so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. That was a great transmissions card. And then we're going to do a little healing, because we still, when we cross over to the other side, there's still healing work, reflection, lots that's going on. And then this perfect card comes up, and I talked about that projection of shame that really led to this repression at such a deep level, and carrying that. Shame is one of the lowest consciousness energies, and I give Louie a lot of credit for carrying that and being able to transmute very, very deep, low vibrations. And when we transmit them, when we're sharing shame, that is transmuting it into its highest form. So the mantra is, when I share my deepest pain, I give myself permission to be. When I share my deepest pain, I give myself permission to be. When I share my deepest pain, I give myself permission to be. When shame is shared, cycles of victimhood are permitted to heal as you find the courage to speak your truth. Since abuse and neglect can only be perpetuated in silence, it is your willingness to step forward and share your life story that helps transform each wound and inspires others to be set free. Once your shame is shared, you are able to honor yourself with the heightened encouragement, worthiness, and validation that you deserve to receive. This mantra is ideal for revisiting past traumas, expressing your inner child, and finding self-acceptance. Oh, Louie, that was incredible. Thank you for that, and for sharing your deepest pain and with us through your books, through your humor, so that we can identify it, recognize it in ourselves, and then start the process of speaking it and transmuting it as well. So please like, share, and subscribe. It's free to the channel. And so we can get the messages out. And I think Louie, I admire him so much, and I just have such deep, deep love for this big, gentle man that was here and showed us a real, true divine masculine. So thank you to him. And I am going to leave you guys with that. And I'm sending you so much love. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.